The chains that bind you were forged by your own mind, and today we break them forever. Welcome to a moment that will divide your life into before and after. If you've ever felt trapped by your past, paralyzed by fear, or held hostage by the opinions of others, this message is your liberation. Today, we're not just talking about healing, we're talking about becoming untouchable. We're going to explore why nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again, not because the world will change, but because you will transform so completely that pain becomes powerless against you. Stay with me because by the end of this, you'll possess the 5 keys that will make you emotionally invincible. This isn't motivation. This is your metamorphosis. The foundation of invincibility begins with understanding that your worth is not a democracy where others get to vote. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that we suffer more in imagination than reality, but there's a deeper truth here. We suffer most when we hand the remote control of our emotions to people who don't even care about the channel. Your self-worth cannot be dependent on external validation because that makes you a prisoner of other people's moods, opinions, and limitations. Think about this philosophically. If your value fluctuates based on how others treat you, then you're essentially saying that random strangers have more power over your internal state than you do. This is not just illogical, it's a betrayal of your own sovereignty. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, who was literally a slave, discovered that even in physical bondage, his mind could remain free. He taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we have absolute control over how we interpret and respond to what happens to us. When you build an unshakable foundation of self-worth, criticism becomes information, not injury. Rejection becomes redirection, not devastation. The opinions of others become background noise in the symphony of your own self-knowledge. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive of feedback. It means developing such a clear understanding of who you are and what you stand for that external voices can inform but never define you. Consider the relationship implications. When you stop needing others to validate your worth, you stop attracting people who are drawn to your neediness and start attracting those who appreciate your wholeness. Relationships transform from emotional transactions where you're constantly trying to earn love to genuine connections where love flows naturally. You stop being the person who gets hurt by every slight and become the person others feel safe being authentic around because your emotional stability doesn't depend on their performance. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This ancient wisdom holds the secret to emotional invincibility. The difference between those who are destroyed by their circumstances and those who are strengthened by them isn't the circumstances themselves. It's the meaning they assign to what happens to them. You have the power to transform every wound into wisdom, every setback into a setup, every betrayal into a blessing in disguise. The Stoics called this the discipline of perception. They understood that events themselves are neutral. It's our judgments about events that create our emotional experience. When someone betrays you, the betrayal itself is just information about their character. Your suffering comes not from their actions but from your expectations and interpretations. When you master the art of reframing, you become like an alchemist who can turn lead into gold, transforming every painful experience into fuel for your growth. This perspective shift requires you to become a philosopher of your own life. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of, "How could they do this to me?" ask, "How is this revealing something I needed to see?" This isn't about denying the reality of pain or pretending that harmful actions don't matter. It's about refusing to give your power away to circumstances and people who don't deserve to control your inner state. In relationships, this transforms everything. Instead of seeing conflicts as attacks on your character, you see them as opportunities to understand deeper truths about yourself and others. Instead of viewing rejection as evidence of your inadequacy, you see it as the universe's way of protecting you from connections that weren't meant to serve your highest good. This perspective doesn't make you cold or indifferent, it makes you wise and resilient. Between stimulus and response lies the space where your freedom exists. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, discovered this truth in humanity's darkest hour. He realized that even when everything external was stripped away, freedom, dignity, hope, he still retained the power to choose his response. This space between what happens to you and how you react is where your invincibility is born. Most people live in a state of emotional reactivity, their feelings tossed around like leaves in the wind by every comment, gesture, or circumstance. They've unknowingly surrendered their power to their environment, becoming victims of their conditions rather than masters of their responses. But when you understand that your response is always your choice, you reclaim the throne of your own life. This sovereignty doesn't develop overnight. It requires training your mind like an athlete trains their body. The Stoics practiced what they called the discipline of desire, learning to want what happens rather than demanding that what happens should align with their wants. This isn't passive acceptance, it's active mastery. It's the difference between being a thermostat and a thermometer. A thermometer simply reflects the temperature of its environment, but a thermostat sets the temperature. In practical terms, this means developing the ability to pause before reacting. When someone says something hurtful, instead of immediately defending or attacking, you create space. In that space, you remember who you are and who you're becoming. You choose your response based on your values, not your emotions. This doesn't mean suppressing feelings, it means not being controlled by them. You feel the emotion, acknowledge it, and then choose how to proceed based on wisdom rather than impulse. Detachment is perhaps the most misunderstood concept in personal development. It's not about becoming cold, indifferent, or disconnected from others. True detachment is about engaging fully with life while not being destroyed by its inevitable changes and losses. It's about loving without possessing, caring without controlling, and investing without attachment to specific outcomes. The Buddhist concept of non-attachment teaches us that suffering comes from our attempts to make permanent what is inherently impermanent. We suffer when we try to hold onto relationships, situations, or identities that are naturally evolving. We create our own hell by demanding that life conform to our expectations rather than learning to dance with its rhythms. Detachment in relationships means loving people for who they are, not for who you need them to be. It means supporting their growth even when that growth takes them away from you. It means being present and engaged while holding lightly to outcomes. This creates space for authentic love to flourish because people feel free to be themselves around you rather than feeling pressured to fulfill your needs or live up to your expectations. This doesn't mean not caring or not having preferences. It means caring deeply while accepting that you cannot control how others choose to respond to your care. It means having preferences while being at peace when life unfolds differently than you hoped. The Stoics called this preferred indifference, things that you would prefer to have but don't need for your happiness or well-being. When you master detachment, criticism can't wound you because your peace doesn't depend on others' approval. Rejection can't destroy you because your happiness doesn't require specific people to choose you. Loss can't devastate you because your security comes from within, not from external circumstances. You become like water, fluid, adaptable, and impossible to break. The final key to becoming invulnerable to emotional injury is mastering the art of presence. Most pain comes from living in the past or the future, ruminating about what has already happened or worrying about what might happen. But life only exists in the present moment, and in the present moment, you have everything you need to handle whatever is actually occurring. Presence is not just a spiritual concept, it's a practical superpower. When you're fully present, you're not carrying the weight of past hurts or future fears. You're dealing only with what is, not with the stories your mind creates about what is. This dramatically reduces your suffering because most of our pain comes from the narratives we construct around events, not from the events themselves. The practice of presence requires you to become an observer of your own thoughts and emotions rather than being consumed by them. The Stoics called this the view from above, the ability to step back and see your life from a broader perspective. When you're caught up in drama, you're like an actor who has forgotten they're in a play. When you're present, you remember that you're both the actor and the director, and you can choose how the scene unfolds. Presence also transforms your relationships because when you're truly present with someone, they feel seen and valued in a way that's rare in our distracted world. You're not listening to respond. You're listening to understand. You're not waiting for your turn to speak. You're fully engaged with what they're sharing. This quality of attention is so powerful that it often resolves conflicts before they escalate and deepens connections in ways that years of surface-level interaction cannot achieve. When you live in presence, you become unshakable because you're not fighting battles that don't exist in this moment. You're not defending against attacks that happened yesterday or protecting yourself from threats that may never materialize. You're simply here, now, responding to what is with wisdom, compassion, and strength. You now possess the 5 keys that will make you emotionally invincible: building unshakable self-worth, mastering the alchemy of perspective, claiming sovereignty over your responses, developing wise detachment, and cultivating powerful presence. These aren't just concepts to understand intellectually. They're practices to embody daily until they become as natural as breathing. Remember, becoming invulnerable to emotional injury doesn't mean you'll never feel pain. It means that pain will no longer have the power to diminish you. Instead, it will strengthen you, teach you, and prepare you for even greater levels of love and service in the world. You're not building walls around your heart. You're building wisdom within it. The journey to emotional invincibility isn't about protecting yourself from life. It's about becoming so strong, so centered, and so clear about who you are that you can engage fully with life without fear. You can love without reservation, speak without apology, and live without the constant anxiety that someone or something might hurt you. Nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. Not because the world will become safer, but because you will have become unbreakable. You will have transformed from someone who is at the mercy of circumstances into someone who shapes circumstances through the power of your inner state. This is your birthright, your destiny, and your choice. Thank you for taking this journey with me today. You've just invested in the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. Take these keys, use them daily, and watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. Remember, you have everything within you right now to live a life where nothing and nobody can ever hurt you again. The power was always yours. Today, you've simply remembered how to use it. Go forth and be invincible.